What if I told you that the fastest way to grow your consulting income isn't saying yes to more clients? It's learning when to say no. Today's guest, Kelsey Daingerfield, learned this lesson the hard way when she took on a client despite clear red flags during their discovery call. The result? A drain on her time, energy, and resources that taught her one of the most valuable lessons in her consulting career. Trusting your gut isn't just good advice, it's an essential business strategy. But here's the really exciting part. Once Kelsey learned to be selective about who she worked with and focused on building the right client relationships, she doubled her corporate income in just 13 months. And she kept going from there, all the while taking more vacation than she ever did in her corporate job. If you're stuck in the feast or famine cycle, wondering how to build predictable revenue, or struggling with whether to take on that client that just doesn't feel quite right, this conversation is for you. Kelsey shares the specific strategies she used to transition from corporate to consulting, scale rapidly, and create the work-life balance that makes self-employment worth it. My name is AJ Riedel. This is the Thriving Through podcast, the podcast where each week I have real conversations with self-employed consultants about what it really takes to build a profitable, sustainable, and fulfilling consulting practice. Let's dive right in. Welcome to this episode of the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is Kelsey Daingerfield. Kelsey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your path to self-employment.
Ooh, that's a good question. It is quite the squiggly line.
I love that squiggly line.
It's a squiggly line. After college, I graduated when the economy kind of tanked a little bit. And so I worked a bunch of different part-time jobs. I was in aerospace medical manufacturing doing marketing. And I was there for a few years. I was doing a bit of customer service and marketing and project management. And it just wasn't filling my cup. And I was recruited to Starbucks to run a store, two totally different industries. And while I was doing that, I was able to really hone in on like my project management skills, process improvement, team management, all that stuff. And really emotional intelligence, I think, really developed there because you're working with so many different people. From there, I moved into higher ed. And I started out as an admin and I worked my way up to director of admissions systems. And from that, I got my PMP, my MBA, and I was like, this still doesn't feel right. So I shifted into the PMO being like, maybe this is it. I kind of felt like Goldilocks a little bit. And by the end of that, I was on maternity leave and I was like, you know what, let's just explore because I've been in a bunch of different industries. The common thread here is process improvement, change management, working with people and teams and helping take ideas and make them come to life or fix just our operations that we have. So I started just tinkering. It's like, what could this be? What could it look like, smell like? And I got a couple clients as working as like kind of like your side hustle, doing operations management and special projects. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't do both anymore. It's starting to be a little bit too much. And so my husband and I came up with our financial goal of like, hey, if I can bring in a minimum of this, then I can leave. And so got there, I saved up some money as like my backup. And as soon as I got there, I just said, okay, guys, like I'm given a 1 month notice, I'm out. And it was 2.5 years ago and I haven't looked back yet.
And you have, in that 2.5 years, are you where you expected to be at the 2.5 year mark?
I'm actually further.
Wow.
In many different ways. So I think you look at success, you define how you look at success. And at first, to me, success was like financial. It's like, okay, I want to surpass my corporate job. And I surpassed my corporate job. And then I did almost double within like the first year. I think it was 13 months. And I was like, holy moly, this is cool. And again, I hit a new number in my second year. And now I'm looking at it as like, numbers are great, but I'm starting to look at success as the balance that I've always wanted. And it's not even a balance, it's a blend. It is the lifestyle shifts that I'm able to have and the things that kind of work for me. That's not just a dollar amount every single month that I'm seeing come in. So I feel like I've hit another level with that. I took more vacation than I ever have last year, and that was awesome. And my business still flourished. It still did great. My clients were supported. So
that's wonderful. I remember with my son, when he started first grade, and I realized I'm self-employed. I can volunteer in the classroom.
yeah,
I don't have a boss that I have to justify this to. And it was, but I still had, even though I'd been in business for myself for a couple of years, I had still a corporate mentality of I've got to be working all the time during work hours. And it's really liberating when you can let go of that and recognize one of the reasons you became self-employed was for that freedom.
exactly. And I think, and like, I find myself still being in that corporate mentality every once in a while. And I'm like, oh, I have to be at my desk. And I'm like, okay, no, we're going to leave and go work at the coffee shop because we can. We're going to rebel. And it kind of pulls you back out of it, being like, okay, reset. No, like I own this. This is mine. I'm going to do what works for my schedule.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me, you had an interesting story when we did our pre-interview. Tell me a story about a challenge that you've overcome in this first couple of years.
So one that comes to mind, and I think this is the one you're talking about, is the knowing when you shouldn't take a client. I find when you get started and you're a couple of years in, or even your first year, you're just like I got to get clients, I got to fill my books, I got to get everything, moving, cash, and you kind of say yes more than you should. And I think that as you're evolving, you start to realize like what you don't like. It's like dating. And I find when you have your own business, when you're meeting with new people and clients and prospects, that you're dating. And I think you need to trust your gut a little bit. I had a client that reached out and was like, hey, I want to work with you. I want you to come in and be like a fractional COO and help me run my business. It's like, cool, completely new industry. Never was in it before. And I just had some reservations about it. And it wasn't necessarily the industry, it was the decision making of the person that I was working with, and just some flags that came up. And nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's different personality types. And instead of just kind of sitting back and being like, oh, what is this? I was like, no, like, let's do this. Let's work together. And it ended up feeling like I was forcing things, like both of us. And we were adjusting the contract and doing all these fine tuning things, when if you trust your gut and it feels right, you kind of just go for it. And it just felt like so little things. And I was like, I had like a little voice being, this doesn't feel like flow with a lot of the other clients, where it's just like, let's do this, we'll figure it out, let's sign the contract, we'll edit it as we go, and let's just start fixing things and having fun. And a couple months into it, we just realized, like, this isn't working for us. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's something that you need to make sure you give yourself grace, and you need to make sure the people you work with, because again, you're finding your partnership. And for me, it's trust your gut, listen to yourself. If you feel like, something I talk about a lot is force versus flow. If it feels like you're forcing it, if you have to chase somebody down for something, most likely that's how the relationship will be if you're running your own business and you're providing a service. So instead, if it's a flow where it feels natural conversations, where it feels like you're having fun and enjoying and also pushing each other to do better, then I feel like that's the green flag. Like, this is the one you want to go for. So it was definitely a learning experience. Because of that, I've had a couple prospects that I've met, and it just felt forced. I had one person who was hunting me down, and they got my phone number, and I was like, how did you find my phone number? And like, I was on a vacation, and I'm like, and they just wouldn't stop calling me. And I finally was like, yes, let's just talk. And at the end of it, I was like, this is not going to be a good match. because I'm going to have boundaries. And if they're not being followed right now while I'm on vacation, and I was very vocal about that. It's like, I don't think I want to bring that in to where I am now. And I think because of what I learned with that previous client, it allowed me to step forward to be like, sorry, this isn't going to work. If I have somebody I can recommend, I will never try to leave somebody high and dry. But yeah, it just really helped me evolve my decisions.
Did you have a moment of, should I really do this with that particular client when you were on vacation? Like, what if this is the last time I ever get a project? Did you ever have that feeling?
With the one that found my phone number?
Yeah.
I did. I was like, oh man. I was like, you know what? No, there's a reason for everything. And I was like, and if I'm feeling like, I can't remember, my coach talks about it. If you're feeling like this, like you're hunching instead of feeling like expansive, like that's a sign. And I was like, if I'm stressing out over this now, it's just going to continue. And I don't want to feel like I'm closed, and I don't want to bring that into my home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely had that moment. It's like, oh man, but I'm like, no, like we're safe. Like we have our baseline, bills are being paid. We're safe. It's okay.
It's okay. I like it. I like how you talk through, that part of your brain that's freaking out, and you're talking that part of your brain off the ledge.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
Like
I
we're
love,
allowed to be scared,
yeah,
but let's walk through it.
I love the force versus flow. The
No,
forced relationships create resistance. Flow feels natural.
it does. And I think the more you're aware of how you feel, like when you work with certain clients, and if there's people you enjoy talking to on the phone, take note of that. Like, what about that relationship, what you're doing for them, what makes you feel good? Because that's what we should be focusing on bringing more in of.
That you mentioned the term emotional intelligence. It's really, that strikes me that it's really that it's being aware of how we're feeling and how we're reacting to certain people in certain situations, and honoring that. Because so often I know for years I didn't honor that. It's like, oh, that doesn't, I felt like I probably was like Spock. That does, that it was not logical. I couldn't explain that touchy-feely, squishy, emotional thing. Therefore, I completely negated it or ignored it.
Yeah. And I think it's ever evolving, like thinking about emotional intelligence and thinking back to the client match. I was like, that's also on me for not, well, now I know, but like being able to see where our different emotional approaches are to where I'm more comfortable being vocal now. But I'm like, maybe at that time, maybe I could have done a little bit better and been a little bit more vocal about like, hey, does this feel like, making sure I'm doing those check-ins? But hey, you learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can say that now in hindsight, but at the time you didn't have the skill to do
Yeah,
that.
100%.
I want to talk more specifics about that first year, because you nearly doubled your corporate income in year one. And that is fairly rare in the world of self-employed consulting. I mean, a lot of the consultants I talk to are struggling, and even past year one, they're still struggling to replicate their corporate income. So tell me, what are some specific strategies that you use to do that in your first year?
Good question, because I feel like I'm like I don't know what it is. Like I'm a little different with how I approached it. I started out with moving my clients to containers. I was like, hey, I had a couple of clients where I helped manage their ops. And I was like, we're doing a monthly container. It's up to a certain amount of hours. And that's how we're going to break it down. I was like, I'm not going to be tracking hours for you and invoicing you every 25 minutes. Like, it's not going to work like that, because that's going to be exhausting. And quite frankly, if you want me to do that, I'm going to increase my rate. And they're like, oh, no, that's okay. I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't mind increasing my rate. So I ended up flipping it like that and just kind of working through it. And then one thing that I almost felt like I was breaking some kind of code of entrepreneurship, but it was like an internal thing, was I had a corporate client come on. And I was just like, well, that's not a client, it's a business. And like, these are my clients. And I had to get past the mentality of like, no, they're still under the umbrella of my company that I'm supporting these people. And so I ended up getting connected with a tech company that does integrations for higher ed. And I was just like, this could be fun. They needed a project manager. I had the background for it, my PMP and my degree. And I was doing funky tech before with Salesforce. I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer, but I'll figure it out. And I just figured, why not? And they only had like a couple hours a week where they had like one project. And at that point, like there was already an account manager on the account, but then things kind of fell through the cracks. Things just kind of started to crumble a little bit, and they asked me to step in. So I stepped in and ended up fixing the account. And it was a very long-term, prestigious contract. It was a very good contract, and they didn't want to lose it. And I ended up coming in the summertime and being like, okay, we're going to fix these things. And instead, I just started meeting with the decision makers, their CIO, and being like, okay, what do we need to do? How do we communicate? What do you prefer? And him and I got along really, really well. He was very direct. And we fixed it. And so I fixed the contract. We were able to get a renewal signed. And they were like, hey, okay, can you help out with this account? And so then I helped working on another account just a couple hours. And then because it was about right after Christmas, no, right before Christmas, they were about to sign a new contract, and then they started seeing just things crumbling. And it was just communication gaps. Happens. And so they asked me to increase my hours and fix that account. I was like, oh, okay, let's just kind of rip back the layers here. And so I came in and I started triaging and working on because it was a very siloed business, and working on just the communication between the silos, but then the higher leadership and figuring out who owns what projects, all the things, and building that connection back together with the communications. And that was what really turned the tides, because I was charging more for the corporate client. They didn't do packages. They don't do it with the way their structure is. So I was billing hourly. And I was just like, hey, like, this is what I need to do. And they're like, that's fine. So it was kind of cool. It was my retaining clients and then my corporate client, and having those two come together really just set the next level for the business.
Generally speaking, you work retainer.
I do. I prefer that. I just think it's easier because I can just set up a subscription model when I'm billing, and it's like, here you go. And it's a use it or lose it. It's like, I like to schedule, make sure we have our calls, we're doing our check-ins. And if you need me to connect with your team, I can set up those. But I'm not going to chase you down. And if you're gonna just ignore me after like a month, I'm going to reach out and be like, hey, you realize you're still paying me, but you're not leveraging me, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, I know. Like, I'm just saying, I can't keep paying me for free, but I don't think that you should do that. And then that's when people re-engage.
Well, that I would see the respect for you go up with them, because it's like, it would be very easy to just keep silent. It's like, why say anything? You're not having to do any work, and you're getting paid, but you're coming back to them saying, you're not getting your value.
Yeah. And like, I know you're stressing out. I know you need a sounding board. We have things that we want to work on. Let's work on them. Let's start fixing. Let's leverage the team better. Let's start changing things. And they're like, oh yeah, I know. I'm like, I get it. Life happens. But come on, let's get our time back. Okay.
Exactly. So tell me, how do you define your ideal client?
That's a good question. For me, I feel like everybody tells you like niche down, niche down. For me, I focus on the person. I want somebody who is going to communicate, who is willing to make decisions and try things, even if they're a little uncomfortable. They don't mind change. So it's really decisive, open-minded, growth-minded, and they are willing to do the work. Like, I've met with people where they're like, well, I'm micromanaging and I don't want to. I'm like, great, let's, start building out some of your processes that you're owning and let's record it and give it to somebody. And we can come up with like the delegation method of 10-80-10. And they're like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, but if we don't do that, you can't let go. And they're like, yeah, but I don't know if I trust them. I was like, well, if you don't trust them, is it because they don't know what they're supposed to do or because they are the wrong fit? And I'm like, well, I'm not sure. So and that's fine. That happens. But I think if you're resistant to change, then you're not ready yet. And I'd rather have people who are ready because again, it's force versus flow. It's not fair for me to force them because that's just an additional stressor too. So
yeah, and eventually if you force them, it's going to fall apart eventually.
Yeah. They have to be willing to make that shift.
So you go on sort of the decisiveness, the openness to change. How do you find your ideal clients?
Right now, I would say 75% of the time, it is word of mouth referrals. And then the other one is networking, in-person networking events.
Okay. When you have a networking event, I'm curious, I'm in the midst of teaching my students about the niche definition, and which is really what you say when you're at a networking event. So tell me what you say to somebody at a networking event.
I tell them I help business owners buy back their time so that they don't have to work to live.
Oh.
I'm like, you don't like you shouldn't like break the cycle of having to do 40 plus hours a week. That's not real. You can get stuff done if you're being efficient. And if you're running your own company, you probably have a small team or like one person or a small and lean or a medium team. How can we be leveraging them better so that you can get out of the weeds? Because it always comes down to team utilization. What do your systems look like? And then the decision making. How are you doing these three things? Because that's going to help you figure out where your gaps are.
So say those again.
It comes down to team utilization.
Okay.
And then it is your systems and processes. Like some people will have like 10 different tools, not realizing that maybe one of the tools they have does like 8 of the 10 things that they need. So it's like, hey, let's make it less complicated. How can we simplify here? And then the last one was decision making, because I find that by the end of the day, we all get decision fatigue. And I feel like that's a very like hot word or phrase is decision fatigue. But it's really your decision making process. It's leveraging your team by doing 10-80-10, where you're giving the explanation of what you want, your definition of done, purpose, and what success looks like. Let them execute 80% and come back and refine the final 10 and tell them what you're changing and why, so that they can start doing more to your expectations and they can still have their flair on it. And then if you have problems, empower your team to leverage this method. It's 1-3-1. One problem, come to me with 3 solutions. And out of those 3, which one do you want to go with? You tell me what you like. And you may hear their like answer and think, oh, that's horrible. But let them try it. What's the worst going to like, you're going to come back and be like, well, that doesn't work. Let's try the other one, and it's being able to allow people to try and to take the ownership, because that in turn will free you up. And it also builds a better community within your company.
I love those. I love those so much. I want to go back and review them again. So it's 10-80-10.
Yep. 10-80-10.
So explain that again.
Yeah. So for 10-80-10, you look at it as like you have a project. So perfect example. I have a social media person. Her name is Eileen. I love her. We do brainstorming, like 10%. We have one call a month where we just do a 90-minute brainstorming recap of data, talk about what we want to do for the next couple months. She goes and she builds it. She comes up with the ideas. I sometimes get like, oh, it's 9:00 at night and I have this crazy idea that I saw on Instagram, and I'll send it to her. But majority of the time, she's implementing everything. She's creating, she's taking my vision and making it better, because it takes me hours in Canva to do things. We're not for her. And then we come back together and she usually sends me everything. And when we first started, I would record a loom and I'd log into her design and be like, hey, want to change this. This is why. And I would actively change things and talk out loud to tell her the reasoning behind it. So that when she would watch the video, she'd be like, oh, okay, so Kelsey really does not like this font. I got to stop using it. And okay, this is what she's looking for here. So she's learning the way that I think real time. And now we're to the point where I would even say we're at like 590 and 5. Like, I don't really send her looms anymore. I'll just send her a quick note being like, hey, I changed this word. Or like, hey, I didn't really like that photo. I like this one. And that's about it. But it's really gotten to that point over, it'll be a year this November that we've gotten to this point where I trust her. I'm like, she knows where I want to go, and she knows my vision. This is a great team.
Love it. Love it. And then the 131.
131. So if you have a problem, trying to think. Okay, hey, we need a CRM. Or no, we have a CRM. Okay, cool. We don't really like our CRM. Okay, we need to get a new one. Okay, go look into it. Perfect. So this person, then you meet with them, talk about all the things you want your CRM to do. Your need to have, your nice to have. I don't want to deal with this. And give them like the definition of the project and the scope of the work and like your wish list and want list and so on. And then the definition of done. It's like, hey, I want you to come up to me with maybe like 3 recommendations. And they build that for you. And they take what they think and they have, okay, these are the options we have here. Okay, cool. Which one would you go with based off of our conversation, our budget, whatever you guys discussed? Okay, let's talk about that. Let's start implementing that. And again, that's really a project implement or system setup. But I mean, you can apply that to so many things like, hey, our communication stinks. We're all texting and using WhatsApp and email and Slack. We're all over the place. Okay, cool. Come together with a solution, one item, and let's test it. Let's go and let them own it.
Great frameworks.
It's really fun.
Yeah, love that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and do some future thinking. Where do you want your business to be in 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. What year is it? 25? So is that 28? That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Wow. 3 years. 3 years from now, I want to be at the point where my operations clients, I have a little and mighty team that help run their show. So I'm not as heavily involved. I'm at a higher level, strategic level with them. And I see myself having, I want to say about 10 clients within my advisory, which is I call it coaching with your sleeves rolled up kind of thing. It's advisory because I'm working with the owner and with the team and helping them make moves in the business because everything that just can't fall on the owner. So helping their leadership team push things through. So having about 10 people in there. And then honestly, I've been thinking about podcast and a group program. And the group program would be similar. I have a coach, Dan Martell. I love him. And I love his setup where he has 4 calls a month. And many people that join his program, and he does a teaching for the first 30 minutes. And the last hour is answering questions. And you learn by listening, but you also you learn by listening to other people and what their challenges are and how they're leveraging his expertise and their expertise. And it's what's caught, not taught, is what he always says. It's like what you're catching in these calls are your takeaways. And I love that idea of having something like that for people that are like, hey, I need to get my operations together. I really just need a small and mighty community where we can talk operations, change management, leadership, and just general Q&A where it's maybe guest speakers, like having an attorney, because people can get scared about having to do that stuff. And just really opening it up and having these weekly sessions with people.
So a membership program.
Yep, it would be a membership program, at least a call a week, about 1 hour to 90 minutes, if not every other week, depending on my bandwidth too. But really having that sounding board for people where they can come and it's not just me talking. Like I may even be like, hey, AJ, this is your area of expertise. What do you think? And helping build that community for people.
It's a great vision. How far out in the future is that?
I'm going to go with a year because I want to do the podcast first. This one I've been pushing off like, no, I'm not ready. But instead I'm like, okay, let's just rip off the Band-Aid because whatever I do is my first episode. It's going to be different at like episode 50. So might as well just rip off the Band-Aid and do it now and just start. So,
yeah. So a group membership coaching program and a podcast, what stands in the way? What obstacles do you anticipate you're going to run into?
my own overanalyzing situation for sure. I'm working through it. That and not knowing how to do it yet. So I kind of put together an outline based off of my like what I'm aware of, but it's like, okay, cool. How do I get something that's like on Riverside out there? Like, how do I do these things? This is not my area of expertise. And I don't need to know everything, but I need to know the how so that when I bring on somebody, I can ask the right questions too. And I'm just kind of chipping away at that because I'm like, it's the end of Q3. Holidays are coming. This would be cool to like launch in the new year and just start building it now.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Now I want to end with a couple, I call them the rapid fire wrap up questions.
Okay,
First
cool.
question, what book, resource, or podcast has been the most valuable to you in your consulting career?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, podcast, I use Dan Martell's extensively. I really enjoy his. I'm actually going into my podcast right now. Oh, you know what? Book that I just almost forgot. The book that actually kind of helped me reposition my approach was Who Not How.
Who Not How?
Who Not How, because I'm very much like, how am I going to do it? What are the steps? I am a list maker. I know what goes in the bags. Like I'm organized. And I very quickly will go to like, okay, how are we going to do that? What's that going to look like? How's this timeline going to work? Let's work backwards. But it helped me shift to like, okay, not how, but who? Who do we know that can maybe help us make our starting point a little bit better? Or who do we know that can help us do this instead of me trying to go figure out how to build a website?
Oh, I love it. That sounds like good advice for me because I tend to be the, dig in and I'll figure it out myself.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of other people that could help.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's like,
Dan Martell's podcast and Who Not How.
yep.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Second question, what's one piece of advice that you wish you'd had at the beginning?
Stop overthinking it.
Overthinking.
Yeah, just stop overthinking it. Do it scared, and it's going to be okay. Like everything works out the way it's supposed to. And sometimes you just got to go for it.
Oh.
And it took me a little while to get there. And it was very much like hey, if business fails tomorrow, I'm still going to be ahead because I have all these learnings that I've already gone through. You're not starting from zero. And I think reminding yourself of that. Like I can always go back to corporate. It's there. It's not going away.
Yeah, takes the fear away.
It does. It's like, hey, there are options. People may make you think like, no, you should be scared. Like, oh, the economy is tanking or whatever's happening. But it's like, you're going to be okay. If you trust yourself, you're going to be okay.
Excellent. And now this is the most important question. How do people find out about you and your work?
I'm on Instagram. So it's actually if you're on video, you can see it as my username, but it's on Instagram, it's at kelseydaingerfield.com or Kelsey Daingerfield. It's Daingerfield is DAIN. So there is an I in there, but that's where you can find me. That's where I hang out the most. I find the other ones, I just kind of get sidetracked. And I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I'm not always on anything else besides maybe Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Kelsey, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really loved our interview, and you came up with some great tidbits that I know that the listeners will be able to apply in their businesses and lives. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a conversation with Kelsey Daingerfield. If you take away just one thing from today's episode, let it be this. Building a profitable consulting business isn't about saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way. It's about being strategic, trusting your instincts, and having the courage to say no to clients who aren't the right fit. Kelsey's story proves that when you focus on the right clients, build retainer relationships, and create systems that support your business, you can not only double your income, but also design the lifestyle you actually want. That's what thriving through looks like. More revenue and more freedom, not one at the expense of the other. So here's my challenge for you. Think about that prospect you're considering right now. What are your gut instincts telling you? Are there any red flags you're ignoring because you need the income? Remember, every time you say yes to the wrong client, you're saying no to the time and energy you should invest in finding the right ones. And if you're ready to stop overthinking and start taking action, even if it feels scary, remember what Kelsey said. Do it scared. Everything works out the way it's supposed to, and you're not starting from zero. You've got this. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with another self-employed consultant who needs to hear Kelsey's message today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Thriving Through so you never miss these real conversations about building the consulting practice you deserve. Until next time, keep thriving through.